Hello, everyone, and welcome to the For Fun of Knit podcast. My name is Linda, and I am coming to you from South Surrey, which is just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And it is currently June 14th. So for those of you that have been following me, at least I did say sometime mid-June. So I seem to be somewhat on track for my next episode, even if it's a month delayed. Anyway, I hope you're all doing fantastic and enjoying the remainder of the spring. Summer's just around the corner and looking forward to a great knitting summer knitting season. For those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. And if this is your first time, my channel is all about the adventures and misadventures of my knitting. Love sharing all of my projects, what's going well, what kind of things I'm goofing up, because I tend to make a lot of mistakes, which are what I consider to be misadventures. Because the wonderful thing about knitting, as we all know as knitters, is if you do make a mistake, no harm, no foul. You can just rip it back and do it again. So, unfortunately, I spend a lot of time doing that. I offer a very traditional format: finished objects, works in progress, what's next on my needles, and then I save the chatter to the end by popular demand, because some of you love the chatter piece and stick with me for the whole thing, and others love to just stick with the knitting and then go on to the next thing. So absolutely appreciate that. And my goal, aside from sharing all my ins and outs of what's on my needles, is just to keep you company while you're knitting. So if I'm on in the background and you're knitting away, that is nirvana. Honestly, I love that. I do that myself. I have a lot of podcasts that I follow, and I love just looking up when they're talking about something that interests me, but focusing on my knitting and watching podcasts at the same time is great multitasking, if you ask me. So today, what have I got? I've got a couple of finished objects, and I do have some works in progress, and this episode is all about socks, blankets, and shawls. So, except for my finished objects. So let's get started. Where to start? Okay, finished object number one. Okay, this is my beautiful Salty Air Tea by Samantha Guerin, and this is it. I'm just going to give you a little preview. It's beautiful lace work, a very simple top-down circular yoke lace pattern, short sleeve. You can easily make it long sleeve. Sorry, that got folded there. Oops. And it is, to me, it hits right about the hip bone. You can make it cropped or not. It is a beautiful pattern, and let me just get my notes so that I can share with you all the details. So this is called the Salty Air Tea. Pardon me, Stephanie Guerin. I said Samantha. Sorry, Stephanie. Sorry, Stephanie. Not that you watch. And I made this in Summer Solstice by Juniper Moon, and it is a linen, cotton, viscose, and polyester blend. It's 48% linen, 24% cotton, and then the rest is viscose and polyester. And this is a very interesting yarn. I really enjoyed knitting with it. It has a total linen feel, and if I can just grab a piece here, this is what's left. I think I have 43 grams left, which begs to wonder. Okay, so there's 295 yards or 270 meters in a cake. It's sort of a skein, but it's those round ones, round and flat. They look like donuts. And I had 3 of them. So basically I had 600 yards. And I have, out of the 600 yards or 300 grams, I have 43 grams left. So just to give you an idea, I have like half a cake left. So it only really took 2.5 of them to actually make this tea for me. And I liked this. I hope I can find a spot. It is very thick and thin. Of course, I'm not going to be able to I think you can see that. Yeah, it's a very thick and thin yarn. So it creates this really rustic, tweedy sort of pattern. And the color that I used in this was called Celestial. So definitely a yarn I would purchase again. And I don't remember the price point, but if, I think it's not the cheapest. I think it was somewhere in the $20-$25 range, Canadian. And I bought it at the Beehive in Victoria. So I knit the size 4 for a 40-inch bust. I'm basically 39, so I didn't want a super amount of positive ease. If you can see this, let me scoot back. I have a nice amount of, I don't know what that would be. It's about 4 inches, I would say, of positive ease all the way along. And again, I knit the size 4. What I will say, 2 modifications that I made is I didn't do, there's one set of increases at the bottom. I did not do that because it started getting quite large as far as I was concerned. When I tried on the yoke, I was thinking, oh no, I think I've got to split for sleeves sooner than what it calls for just to get the fit that I wanted. And the other thing that I did was a little split hem. And that is just my little detail that I like. Sorry for. And how I do it is when I get to, I do the front hem, just the ribbing in the front. And when I get to the back, I add 4 stitches on each side. And then I sew these 4 extra stitches underneath. So you get this nice sort of overlap, which turns out to be a nice sort of finish for the split hem. Those are the only modifications that I made. I will make this again. I think it's an absolutely beautiful pattern, super simple to make. I did have to concentrate on the lace. Lace work is not something I can do while watching TV. I can listen to a book, excuse me, but I have to concentrate on lace because I do use the stitch markers to make sure that I have the pattern done, but I have to keep track of where I am with the rows. I have to keep track of where I am in the stitches. So for me, lace work is something that takes a little bit of concentration, which is why I love a pattern like this, because you're really only doing a section of lace. Someday I might do an all over lace project, but for now, this type of pattern is just absolutely perfect. When I make it again, I will make a third modification is I will cast on less stitches. I will cast on for a smaller size because this neck, and it's a combination of the actual size of the pattern, but probably more so, 1, I'm a very loose knitter, and 2, this yarn grows a significant amount, just like a linen or cotton would. That is how it behaves. And so I would cast on the neck for probably 2 sizes smaller because this for me is just a little bit too open, even in the summertime. But you can see how deep it goes in the back. I would like to pull it up. So I am going to try and just crochet, a single crochet, every 3rd stitch. I'm going to do 2 together and just bring it in just to see how that looks. If it doesn't look nice and tailored, then I will leave it the way it is because it's absolutely beautiful and I absolutely love it. So there you go. That is my Salty Air Tea by Stephanie Guerin. Love it, love it, love it. And I think she's coming out with a new pattern, if I'm not mistaken, which is another yoked lacework pattern. So I'm just going to do a quick change and show you finished object number 2. Ta-da! Here I am in, this is what I consider to be an adventure in knitting. And this is the type of project that just gets me so excited. And it's just fun, fun, fun. Frivolous, mindless fun. And this is my Tin Can Knits Flax. So it's the Flax by Tin Can Knits. And it's my very first steeked project. So I turned the pullover into a cardigan. And here it is. There you go. And I used, I have to change this button. I just have to move it over. It's a little off center. But what a great, fun, cropped little cardigan. It is beautiful. And believe it or not, I am wearing this next to my skin. I got nothing underneath here. I am wearing it next to my skin, and it is not picking at me. I thought for sure it would. So let me give you a few of the details. Hang on 2 seconds. Okay. So you know that I keep my project notes in my project journal, and that's kind of what it looks like. All my notes, I like to keep a picture. I like to keep a sample of the yarn. Yes, all of this can be kept on Ravelry, which I sort of do half the time, and I will try and get better at, because I find this part of the artistic process for me is to write things down and to really absorb the actual process of knitting. So this is a Linda-ism, but I will put it on Ravelry because I absolutely appreciate and I love it when people write notes that tells me about how they made their project when I find one that I really like the look of. And I have not been good at doing that. So I'm going to try. I'm a work in progress. I'm going to try and do that a little bit more diligently. Certainly for projects like this where you're just going off the fly and it ends up turning out, in my view, spectacularly. So further on that, I'm not going to go into too much details on the flax because I've already covered it in a previous episode, which I'll put in the notes. But just the highlights. It's the Flax by Tin Can Knits. I steeked it. So I do believe they have a cardigan, but I wanted to knit in the round, make it easy on myself. I used 5mm needles for the body, 4.5 for all the trim, the ribbing and the cuffs, 2x2 cuffs. I knit the size large, which is a 44-inch bust. I'm about a 39, so it's got lots of positive ease, which I liked, and it's a little on the cropped. Well, is it really cropped? I don't know. Well, yeah, it's, again, my version of cropped is, some people's version of cropped is up here. That's not my comfort zone. I like it just at the, if I'm going to do a croppy version, it's going to be somewhere in this area, like top of the hip or right at the hip bone. So to each his own. I used Munro Silk Garden yarns, all scraps, which I talked to you about before. And as far as color management, I just went with it. I just saved a little bit of the pink and the turquoise. I held some back so I could put some lower in the body because I had a very little bit of that. And none of it got into the sleeves, as you can see. And they're not perfectly matched sleeves. They're somewhat matched, but not perfectly. And that's the fun thing about a scrappy sweater. This is a great pattern to just use your scraps. Honestly, it's so well written. I would highly recommend this pattern. What can I tell you? The body of mine ended up being, I should say this, and this is one of my misadventures in knitting. None of my patterns, and I am going to say none, do I ever get the stitch count right. I don't think I've ever gotten the stitch count right on anything. The body of this was 277 stitches in the body and 55 on the sleeves. And the way I figure that out is just, when I get to the right depth or whatever, I separate for sleeves, and then when I count my body, I'm always off. So I'm always having to adjust it. Well, I want a few more stitches in the front and a few less stitches in the back, and maybe I have to add extra stitches on the underarm, or I have to take away stitches in the underarm. I don't know if anybody else does that. But for me, even though I follow a pattern and I try my best to follow it verbatim, I'm always off. Always, 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 always. So I have learned to just kind of, fudge wherever I need to fudge. What else can I tell you about this? Nothing other than I picked up 90 to 95 stitches. Again, it wasn't exact. I just picked up stitches, and I think one was 92 and one was 95. And then I reduced them to be an even 90 when I picked up for both sides of the ribbing. And other than that, this is my absolutely wonderful flax. I'm glad I'm wearing it now because it's actually a cloudy, rainy day today, and it's cooler. So my Salty Air tee was too cold to be wearing today. So I'm happy that it turned out this way. Anyway, so this episode in terms of other finished objects, we're now going to go into socks, because this episode is all about socks, blankets, and shawls. And so if you're looking for pattern inspiration, this is the episode for you. I might do it a little bit differently. I think what I'll do is I'll do my finished object socks, my works in progress, and then what's going to be next on my needles in socks. And then I'll go back to a whip, which happens to be a blanket. So let's just do the socks. Awesome. So hopefully you remember from previous episodes, I've got a section here of mystery skeins. Patrick chose 12 different skeins of sock yarn for me to knit with throughout the year. It was my way of trying to involve Patrick in my knitting. And so he got to play with the yarn. I brought all the bins down of Christmas yarn and non-Christmas yarn. And I just said, fill your boots, whatever color strike your fancy, put them in these paper bags. Those are actually paper bags. Seal them up, and I will just randomly choose them throughout the year. So this was January. Look at these. Isn't this beautiful? Now, this is a deconstructed fade sock yarn from Shirley Bryan Yarns, Shirley Bryan Fibre Co. Or is it, what's it called? It's called, nope, it's just called Shirley Bryan Yarns. That's the label. I hope you can see it without the glare. That's the label. It is I keep forgetting, is an 80-20. It's a 75-25. I can't read without my glasses. And this colorway was called You're So Vain, I Bet You Think These Socks Are For You. So not only do I like the color, but see the theme? Not only do I like the color, but the names catch me. Honestly, I buy yarn sometimes just because of the name, because something twigs for me and it tickles my funny bone, and that's the joy in it for me. Now, this particular sock is just my vanilla 64 stitch sock, toe up, just with a regular, I don't know, cast on toe, Jenny Secret cast on method. And then it's a 3x1 rib. And this time I tried the rib all the way around, which I have to say, and I can't remember who was telling me about that. It might have been Kelly and Noelle from Knits and Pieces, to just do the rib all the way around and you don't feel it on the bottom of your foot. And that's true. I have to say, a lot easier than trying to remember. I mean, you can still knit straight across if you wanted to, but I didn't. I wanted to try it, and so I did. And what I will say with socks for me are the great place. They're almost like my knitting laboratory. They're a knitting lab, literally. You can try all sorts of different things with socks before you try it on a bigger project. So anyway, I tried that. Then I am in constant search of the perfect fit for socks. And so every pair of socks I've knit so far have been different, and I keep tweaking until I get the perfect fit. My challenge is this, the space between here and here. And I don't know what this part of your leg is called, but anyway, where your foot meets your leg and your heel. Mine is very deep. It is, I'm going to say it must be abnormally deep, because socks don't fit me. If I just knit a pair of socks per pattern, it is so tight right here. It's pulling. It's, my heel is dragging it this way. So whether I am doing afterthought heels or whether I'm doing the short row shadow wrap heel, those are the two, or gusset, heeling gusset, I haven't had a problem with. I don't find that they fit me the best because, again, the gusset, the heel flap is a little bit too short. Or is that the heel flap? And that's the gusset. I never remember. Anyway, not the best fitting heel for me. I do like an afterthought heel so far, and I do like this short shadow wrap short row heel. However, both of those are too shallow if I just knit them the way they are to pattern. So for the afterthought heel, when I join the yarn for the afterthought heel, I will knit 6 rounds before I start the decreases in the heel. That gives me enough depth. I had to do the same with the short row shadow wrap heel. And how I did that is when I got to the place where I was going to start the heel. In this case, I used an alternating color, and I'll explain that in a minute. When I joined the yarn in that very first row, every fourth stitch, I added a stitch. So I picked up a loop from the knit stitch below and knit that and added. So every fourth stitch, I added a stitch. So I have, instead of 32 on my back needle, I now had 40. And that means it takes you longer to reduce the stitches to the heel, so you end up having more rows. You have how many more rows? I think eight more rows, 8 to 10 more rows. I can't remember how many it works out to in the actual heel on the bottom, and the same on the top. So you end up with a slightly bigger heel. So that was important for me. The second thing I noticed when I knit socks, and it became most evident when I started knitting shorties. I did not notice this when I made a full leg sock. But what I noticed when I was knitting shorties is that it doesn't matter, you know, what I did with the heel, I always ended up having a sock that did this. It was higher in the front and lower in my heel. And again, that's because I have quite a round, so thick and round heel that took up a lot of yarn space. So it was pulling my sock like this. And I thought, okay, so here's another amendment I have to make. So what did I do? I did short rows. So once I finished all the decreases of the heel, I didn't release the yarn. I then did short rows in the alternating color, contrast color, and I think I did about 6 or 8 rows of short rows, and then I started in the round again with my main color yarn. And oh, did that make a difference? It brought everything right up and right stable and no more pulling. So yay me, awesome. So those are two of the main things. These socks, I got really lazy with these socks because I was doing so much experimenting that I did have to rip it out and do it again and rip it out and do it again. So you don't see that in the background. But I ended up doing a 3x3 rib, migrating to a 2x1 rib. This was a 3x1 rib, 2x1 rib, and then the cuff was a 1x1 rib. And the bind off is new to me. It's called the suspended bind off, which I found on a Chili Knits video. So there's 3 go-to places for me for tutorials. One is Very Pink Knits, Stacy from Very Pink Knits. The other one is Pearl Hunter. I don't know if she's still recording. And the last one is Chili Knits. And this one I found on Chili Knits, and it's called a suspended bind off that is supposed to be super stretchy. Excuse me. Oh, good coffee in the morning is lovely. Okay, so again, very stretchy. I tried the Icelandic bind off. I didn't like the look of it. It looked like it was something different. It was thicker somehow on the top, and it looked like it wasn't supposed to be there. I don't like Jenny's super stretchy bind off because it's too gapey. This does not gape. You won't be able to see it on my video, but it doesn't gape at all. It looks very neat and tidy, very even, and not hard to do at all. It's actually kind of fun to do. So I will put that description those notes in the description below. So those were my January socks that Patrick picked out for me. My February socks, this color blew me away. I bought it as part of I like to buy Christmas yarns. They make in the festive season. I love getting little gifts to myself. And so I bought this from Ancient Art Yarns, and it is called Zoo Lights. I don't know if you can see that in the glare, but that's called Zoo Lights. And it's their Sucknado base, which is an 80/20, which I love. It's one of my favorite yarns. And this is Zoo Lights. Look at these. Do they just not look like something Christmassy to you? Like all the Christmas lights against a night sky, or, you know, even reminds me of that Light Bright game. And that's funny, that'll come in later again. But where all the lights light up. Oh, this is so festive to me. My hair is everywhere. So festive to me. I absolutely love these. Now, while I love this yarn and I love these socks, I chose a pattern where I didn't do the pattern justice. So stay tuned to the end of this video because there's going to be a little something something at the end. But these are the Freddy beach socks by Nancy Wheeler. And again, Nancy, sorry, my yarn choice doesn't reflect the pattern very well, but I'll try and showcase it. I will put a picture up, obviously, but I'm going to knit these socks again because this was a very enjoyable knit. The way the pattern plays out, now I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try and show you the pattern. Can you see these little slip stitches here? You can see slip stitches. And so it is so much fun to do with the heel flap and gusset. So it's cuffed down. And then look at that. Look at the bottom. What tickles me pink about these socks is, one, the pattern, the way she's done the pattern makes the socks so squishy. You just want to keep squishing your socks. But the yarn is so much fun for me because, one, it looks totally different in the leg, totally different again in the heel flap and gusset, and then totally different as just a striped yarn. Look at that. It is so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this. And again, not the best choice of yarn for the pattern, so I am going to knit these again in a more neutral palette because it was a very enjoyable sock knit. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And so I highly recommend this pattern. And like I said, stay tuned because there's a little something something at the end. So that was February's sock choice. And again, I think I knit the medium in this particular pattern, which was a 64 stitch sock. So loved that. My March socks are a work in progress. So we're just going to talk about a work in progress. What did I do? Found my March socks. Okay. So my March socks, Patrick picked out K-Zip Knits, which is Kelsey from the Okanagan. And this is a limited edition colorway, and I love this. That dragon ate my kiwi. So again, the names just kill me. This, I'm assuming, is the dragon. Beautiful. This is a 75-25, and it is fingering, but it's a very hefty fingering. It's quite nice. Is this 75-25? Let me just take a looky here. Sorry for the ping. This is, yep, Superwash Merino. It is 75-25. So this is the dragon colorway, and this is the kiwi. Look at this. They're both speckled with a little bit of black. And it's going to be hard for me to show you. The socks that I am knitting with this beautiful yarn, this is so much fun, is a pattern by Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears, and it is called her Rumple socks. Oh gosh, I'm all tangled. Sorry, I'm knitting two at a time, and I'm knitting from the inside and the outside of both balls. So just to make my life a little bit more complicated. So if you can see, this is the pattern of the Rumple. So I'll show you one. This is the pattern of the Rumple socks. Isn't that lovely? Now this pattern is cuff down. I prefer doing toe up when I can because I want to use as much of the yarn. I don't want to worry about how much yarn I have left over. And when I go toe up, I can just knit the leg as long as I want because I can see how much yarn I have left over. So it starts with an umbrella toe. She has this beautiful basket weavy kind of pattern, and then of course my bottom is just straight stockinette, and now I've started on the heel, which is just I've never done this heel either before. It's just decreasing on both sides, but I did the same approach. I didn't know how this heel was going to fit, so when I joined the kiwi color, every fourth stitch I picked up a stitch and added, so I have 40 stitches across the back instead of 32. And now I'm doing the decreases. Now, for this heel, it might end up being too big. I don't know, but I'd rather have a sock that's a little big than a little small. So this is my Rumple socks with a whole bunch of yarns. I'm sorry, with all the little pieces to show, but absolutely loving this pattern. And notice there's a little bit of a color difference between the two socks, because again, I'm pulling from the outside and the inside of the sock. And the dye, when you have indie dyers, quite often the dye does not get as saturated in, it's not the same saturation in one part of the skein from the next. So when you buy indie dyed yarn, you might expect that. It doesn't bother me. Sometimes it bothers me if it's really, really, really evident. Other times it doesn't. And in this case, it doesn't bother me so much. But if you do find that, sometimes it's best just to alternate. So take from the inside and the outside of your skein, knit one sock at a time, and alternate. And that will lessen that effect dramatically. But absolutely loving these. And so these were my March socks that Patrick picked out. And now let's talk about the socks to come. Because April's gone, May's gone, and we're halfway through June. And I'm still working on March socks. So let's talk about the colors and the patterns for April. So the yarn that Patrick picked for April was this beauty. And I just love this. Love, 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 love this. The yarn that he chose doesn't have a label anymore because I've lost it along the way, but I remember very clearly what this yarn was. Hello, I'm attached. This is the colorway for April. And this is an exclusive colorway to the grocery girls from Hello Stella, and this was called Jingle Balls. It was part of a Christmas bag that they did, and I absolutely love it. And I love that Patrick loved it. Obviously, he likes these colors too. Got a theme going here. And I'm pairing these socks with, this is the contrast color. And Camp Fibre Yarns is another favorite yarn of mine. And this is her Vibrant Sock Base 80/20 and in the Boysenberry colorway. So these two socks, hold that thought, these two socks are going to go on the needles, or those two yarns are going to go on the needles because those are my April socks. But for April, May, and June, I'm taking socks out of Operation Sock Drawer. And this is a fabulous sock book. If you don't have it, you might want to try and get it, from the Knitmore girls. And it has got a ton of sock patterns. I think it came out in 2020, which is when I bought it. And the socks that I am going, now all these patterns I do believe are available individually as well on Ravelry now. But I need my glasses because this is a pattern by Natalia, oh boy, we're going to butcher this, Sinelchiskova, but this is called the Better Half. And I just don't want to get glare. There we go, the Better Half. And so my Boysenberry is going to be this color on the toes and the cuffs. And then my Jingle Balls is going to be the body. So very festive holiday socks for me. So that is the pattern that I am going to cast on for April. I will say I have read the instructions and I'm already lost. I do not understand. So I might have to reach out in just the very first row. Knit around dividing stitches at the midpoint of the round for the instep and sole. Place marker or rearrange stitches as you prefer. I do magic loops, so I don't know what that means. So I have to figure that out. But anyway, there's another good picture of them. There's another good picture of them. Look at how cute those are. Just a different detail, right? Just a different detail. So that is going to be April. Now let's go on to May. Now May, he chose a beautiful, my husband loves color. I did not know this about him, that he really loves color. Look at this. This is a Black Cat Custom Yarns luxury sock base, which is an MCN. And this is in the light bright colorway. It's called Light Bright, which again, I think of that game, that Light Bright, you know, you have to plug in little bulbs and you create pictures. And look at that. And I'm going to pair this with a medium gray. I just haven't wound it up yet. So these are May socks, and the May sock pattern is also out of this, and it's by Fiona Munro, and it is this pattern called Stained Glass. So that is going to be the Night Bright Stained Glass. See if there's another sort of picture. I am, however, not going to make shorties. I am going to make full length socks, so I'm going to continue with the pattern all the way up. But really looking forward to that because, again, different heels, different toes, new construction keeps it interesting for me. So I'm very excited about that. So that I'm going to cast on very soon for those. And that was May socks. So June. Okay, this is a complete fluke. But wow, kismet. Really kismet. Because this yarn is from Timber Yarns, and I'm going to try and find the name before I show it to you. Okay, it's Timber Yarns, and this is for the month of June. And June is always Pride Month. But look at this. This is from Timber Yarns. Look at this. This is fabulous, and it's called Black Tie Unicorn. Seriously, Black Tie Unicorn. And so I am pairing it, these are my June socks, with just a black because I want these colors to pop. I want these colors to pop for my June socks. So again, it might take me until December to make all these, but I am casting these on, and these are the Meta socks by Mary Hull, the Meta socks. Because the Black Tie Unicorn is self-striping, this sock is made for scraps. Like it is all scrap, little different scrappy socks, and it's a beautiful bubble sort of pattern, but she has you actually weaving in all the ends. I'm like, oh God, no, I'm not going to be doing that. But look at these, aren't those lovely? And look at how you got bubbles in the front, and then you have stripes in the back and on the bottom. So I thought that would be a great self-striping yarn, but I laughed because look at all the ends. Look at all the ends. I'm trying to show it so it doesn't glare. Look at all the ends. I'm like, no way, man. I'm not doing that. So I'm using self-striping yarn. That way I don't have to do it. But I just look at this and I go Black Tie Unicorn. Oh my gosh. I'm just saying, I don't know. But anyway, so that is in my Tangled Stitch bag from Kelly. Love it. Of the Tangle Stitch. So those are my sock future, soon to be knit socks. So take a break if you need to take a break. Have a sip of coffee. Take a walk. It's always good. Come back because now we're just going to talk about one more work in progress and then a little bit of chatter. Okay, so work in progress. Work in progress includes this. So this is a blanket that I am making, and this is just one long I-cord from that wonderful, wonderful skein, Zoo Lights from Ancient Arts. And look at it, it just goes on and on and on. So I had, I don't know, 40 grams left of Ancient Arts yarn, and I made it into an I-cord. So let me just wind this up because there's method to my madness. As always, this is part of the adventure of this craft. I love it, and I'm sharing my adventure. Might end up being a misadventure, but for now it's an adventure. Because I have this little ball, and then I wound scraps. This was Belle. This was Fleece Artist Belle in a Christmas colorway. And then this is a combination of three different remnants that I had, all different Christmas colorways. And is that all I have right now? Oh, no. And then I have my Homespun House Hogwarts Christmas 2021 or 2. I can't remember. All wound up. So what am I doing with this? Well, first, how did I make it? Okay. I cannot take credit for any of this. I got this idea from Max the knitter from Les Garçons, Maxime Cyr. He knit an I-cord blanket using I-cord and like 19 millimeter needles. So I started and I bought an I-cord maker off of Amazon. And I think this one was like $30 Canadian, not cheap. But this one I liked. It does a really good job, and how it works is you feed the yarn in. There are videos on this, so I'm not going to do a tutorial. No, thank you. But you put your yarn down there, you tie it to the weight. This is a weight that comes with it. You feed, you have to thread in a certain way. There's a certain way to thread it. You don't just let it go around. No, you got to crisscross it a bit so that it catches. And then once you start cranking, the weight pulls the yarn through and you just crank away and I-cord comes out the bottom. It's amazing. This one I bought and it just is clunky. It works really well. Do not get me wrong. It works really well, but it's kind of clunky. Clunk, 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 clunk. So I thought, oh, well, maybe if I bought a better one, it would be different. So then I bought this one, which is a Prim. I don't remember what the name of that one is, but this is a Prim I-cord maker, and you can see the same as the other one. It's almost got the same innards. It looks like it's got the same innards. It's probably made by the same people, who knows. But you can see as you crank, those needles go up and down, and they're catching the yarn that is threaded here, and they're pulling it down. Now this one has a different weight. What did I do with the weight on this one? What did I do with the weight? I put the weight somewhere. It's a big silver weight that hangs down. Just imagine there's a big silver weight. This one is much sturdier, like it's twice the price. And so it's a bit of a splurge. And when you crank it, very smooth. It cranks, so I was right about that. The innards work much more smoothly than that one. What I will say, however, the other part I like about this one is this one has a clasp that you can then attach to a desk or a shelf and put it high up and crank. And I'll explain why that's important. But interestingly enough, this one is a little bit more finicky to thread and get started than that one. Both of these, I find that I need to have a double pointed needle or a needle, doesn't matter, to help me thread and pick up some of the yarn as it's going around. I have to hold, it's kind of finicky. I have to kind of hold the yarn, thread one, come down, lift the thread up because it doesn't want to catch all the time, move the thread to skip one. So it's a little finicky. Watch the videos. It's a little finicky to get started, but have patience. You'll get the hang of it. And once it does start going, your first little bit, because don't forget your weight is pulling it down, your first little bit might look really odd, all tangled or whatever. Don't worry about it. If you keep cranking and then the I-cord looks normal, keep going. You can unravel the bottom and just seam it off wherever you want. But then you just keep cranking, 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 and once your weight hits the floor, then you just reattach it to the top yarn, and you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. Why I like this clamp is that you can put it higher up, and it gives you much more space between where you're cranking and the floor, so you can get more done before you have to actually replace the weight every time. This one does not have that option. It is strictly a hand crank. You probably could clamp it. It's got a little ledge here. You probably could clamp it somehow, but I don't know exactly how. This is pretty much a hand crank. This one you can actually attach. So you are paying quite a bit more for almost the same machine. So it just depends on whether you want to actually stabilize this and have it on a stationary thing and crank, or whether you don't mind holding it in your hand. As far as the weight and attaching the weight goes, the best way I found is when I had a little bit of I-cord, I would put in a slip knot and I would attach the weight, whichever one it looks like, I would attach the weight onto the slip knot. So as the cord is going down, 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 and if you have to now move the weight up, I would just do another slip knot, put the weight on here, and it would just keep going down, 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 down. And I would just keep doing that all the way along. Both machines make almost the same size of I-cord. I can't really tell too much of a difference. Nope, they're pretty much the same, but it is going to be fun to see how this project comes to life, because it's going to be all my Christmas yarn scraps knitted into a very, very casually loose throw, using very large 15 millimeter or 19 millimeter, not too sure, needles. So stay tuned to the end of the year as I progress. I might show it in between to see how I go, but what I like about cranking the I-cord is it's mindless. So if you don't really, sometimes you just need a break, you need a palette cleanser, you need to do something different, doing I-cord is a great, you feel productive, but it's taking no brain space at all. So hopefully that appeals. Now we're going to do a little bit of a fashion show. So this is just going to be set to music. I'm going to put the names of the shawls at the bottom. I don't know that I'll have the capacity to put all the links because there's quite a few shawls. But I thought it would be fun for you to see some of my sister's knits as well as some of my shawl knits. You've seen all mine, but you haven't seen all hers. But it's just a slideshow, or not a slideshow, a little fashion show. We are not models, as you know. So be kind. But I just thought it would be interesting for you to see the different permutations and combinations of some shawls, and maybe it'll give you some ideas on pattern ideas, excuse me, if you're looking to knit something, and maybe inspiration will come your way. So without further ado, let me take you through the shawls that we have knit.
Well, something got me shaking, my mind was racing, pacing the room. I don't know, but I think I fell to pieces the moment that I first saw you. Now it's true, I thought I could get over it, brushed you off my shoulder, but now I'm a mess. Every day is worse and the hurt is always bringing me down. Help me,
So that was a lot of fun putting that to music, and my sister is absolutely a fabulous knitter, and I love all of her color choices. She's much more vibrant than I am sometimes, and so it always inspires me to add a little more color to whatever I'm knitting. So love you, sis. Now, for that little something something I was talking about earlier on in the video. So for those of you that have stuck around this long, this is a good thing. So I had so much fun knitting the Freddy Beach socks by Nancy Wheeler that she graciously is gifting to one of you a free pattern. So, and it can be a free pattern of your choice. I personally love the Freddy Beach, but she has lots of fun patterns with very fun names. So if you check it out, just look on Ravelry under Nancy Wheeler, and you will find all of her patterns. But she is going to gift a lucky viewer a pattern, and I'm going to match that. So 2 viewers are going to receive a free Nancy Wheeler pattern. Please put down a comment below if you're interested in winning a free sock pattern. And let's see, just tell us what yarn you are, so the actual, the dyer of the yarn, the weight and the color of the yarn that you plan on knitting your next pair of socks, because I would love some more yarny inspiration. So absolutely, if you can do that and put a comment below regarding that, and these socks will then be, or not these socks, but a free pattern will be gifted to you from both, one from Nancy and one from myself. So thank you for that, and I hope you enjoy knitting them as much as I did. So that's it for the knitting content. For those of you that want to sign off and say goodbye, have a fabulous day, evening, morning, wherever you are. And for the rest of you, a little bit of chatter. So what's been going on? As you know, I'm back from Spain. So that was the big thing. I'm back. I went from Vancouver to Virginia the first week of May, and then from Virginia to the Costa del Sol in Spain, spent 3.5 weeks there, signing the deed to our property, getting our property ready. I will do a whole episode on that at some point, because that turned out to be a lot more work than we thought. And certainly buying property abroad is not for the faint of heart, because everything is done very differently. It's very different than in North America in terms of process, timelines, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Well, what we consider to come first is not what comes first in Spain. Just, trying to speak technology, construction, banking in a foreign language. I speak Spanish, but boy, did my learning curve go way up, because it was necessary. It was necessary to have access to language in order to get some of these things done. That said, the people that we dealt with throughout the process, whether it was the lawyers or the notaries or the banking staff or the construction crew or the property management company, all were fabulous, absolutely fabulous, very helpful. And even if they didn't speak English, they tried. And they could see that I was trying to speak Spanish in a more technical format. And so they were very gracious. And so I have nothing but good things to say about that. The property that we bought, Patrick and I, there were a couple of times where we were rolling our eyeballs going, oh my gosh, did we make a mistake? Not too sure, but we didn't. And we're very happy. At the end of the day, we're so happy. It's all getting done. There were lots of things that needed to be fixed. The biggest thing that was a challenge for us was there was no water or electricity for the first 2 weeks. So you own a property, but you have no water or electricity. So not only can you not live there, even though you own the property, which cost us more in rentals, which we did not anticipate, but you can't do your deficiency list completely without plumbing and electricity. So in my last week there, it was pretty hectic, because as soon as the electricity and plumbing came on, other issues arose that poor Patrick is still there, and having to deal with a lot of that. But it's all getting resolved. And again, the property is so worth it at the end of the day. And keeping in mind, we bought like a little teeny weeny pied à terre, just so that we had a place in the sun to go to. So we feel very fortunate and very privileged. It is not a villa or anything like that. But even when you buy a small little property, new or used, there is stuff that needs to get done. And you just need to be prepared for that. And you need to be able to have a sense of humor. And you have to just relax. Nothing will get done in the timeline that you expect. You might as well quadruple or quintuple it. And what you were told isn't always how things transpire when it does transpire. So again, you need to have buckets of patience and buckets of kindness, because it does get frustrating, but it all does get done at the end of the day. So that's what I'll say about that. And as soon as it's all set up in the fall, I will absolutely send photos, like show some more photos. But that was the majority of it. The Maryland sheep and wool part, my sister and I had a blast, but I'm not going to tell you anything about that because her and I want to talk about it on a video. And so I am just learning how to do Zoom, and hopefully I'll be able to do a recorded Zoom. If not, I'll have to go to some different platform. We recorded twice. Once when I was there in the first week of May and my recording did not take. And once when I got back, we got 20 minutes recorded, and then the rest of it disappeared. Don't ask me. In a break, just gone. We recorded the whole thing. We spent another hour and a bit recording, having a blast, second time around. And a blank screen. I've got nothing. So I have a call into Apple to find out why my MacBook isn't actually recording my videos. And it actually happened to me today when I was recording this. I recorded a whole segment and it disappeared. So I've re-recorded it, but you would not know that. So that is sort of the scoop. What's happening? Other than that, Mom did really well the 5 weeks on her own. Super proud of my mom. She's got a very social calendar, so it wasn't a hardship. But I came back to a lawn. My backyard was 3 feet high. No kidding. We had the perfect storm of weather for grass growth. It was slightly humid, very sunny, just a couple of days of rain, nothing more. In the whole 5 weeks I was gone, 3-foot grass. And I personally would not have mowed it. I loved it. Between the buttercups and the wild daisies and the wheat sort of grass going, I had butterflies and bumblebees just zooming around, and I just sat for the first couple of days on my patio. I wish I had filmed it. On my patio. Oh, I think I might have filmed it. I might be able to include something in here. But I just sat on my deck just listening to the hum and enjoying the wilderness. But at the end of the day, you can't have a hay field in suburbia, so I had to mow it. And I was very sad about that. But I got it done, and that took me 3 days. I had to weed whack it first, and I've never used a weed eater before, so I had to, thank you YouTube, go on YouTube and learn how to use a weed eater. My husband was so impressed. Yes, he was so impressed. So I weed eated the whole thing, and then I mowed it twice, and now it's all beautiful again. But I liked the long grass. I really did. But there you go. Made quite a few acquisitions. I didn't think I made quite a few acquisitions, but I did. But I'll save that for a later video as well, because I think this is getting a bit long. But everything turned out to be wonderful and fantastic, and I'm just glad to be back. I miss the sunshine. I miss Spain. I miss all the friends that we have there, and the food and the wine. Oh my goodness, people. $5 Canadian for a really good, maybe $8 Canadian for a really good bottle of wine. Crazy, 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 crazy. Anyway, on that note, I will say farewell for now. Adieu. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope I was able to keep you company, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Hopefully it'll be a Zoom with my sister, but if not, I will certainly be publishing another episode soon. So thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. Happy knitting. Bye.